One of the most asked questions on YouTube is, what gear should I get? But unfortunately, there isn't a photographer on earth who can answer that question for you. Not one who isn't trying to sell you a camera, anyway. But in this video, as I go on a beautiful autumnal photography trek in the Welsh countryside, I'm going to show you how you can choose exactly the right gear for your specific situation. And at the end, I'll tell you exactly what I did when I was hunting for the right gear as a good rule of thumb. Let me show you what I mean. This video is sponsored by Epidemic Sound.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to another video. That was just sort of a starter shot to get me started for the day. I'm not sure it really works, but it was a lovely scene. It's nice little tunnel. There was nice light. Three factors that are quite important to a good photo. But while I can't tell you what to get, I can help you to decide.
Now, I want to establish something right at the beginning of this video. Your worth as a photographer and a person isn't based on the camera that you use for your photography. It's based on the content of your photos. I don't care if you use the new Sony A9 III or a smartphone to take your pictures. If your pictures are good, then you are a good photographer. I just want to make that clear, because when you're first starting out in photography, it can feel like there is a lot of gear to choose from and most of it is probably out of your budget. But you don't need to worry about that, as I'll go on to show in this video. The reality is, it's impossible for anybody to recommend the perfect camera for you, because nobody really knows you and your photography that well. Only you know what you want to do with the camera. And because of that, going off other people's recommendations can be quite dangerous, because one of the worst things in photography is buyer's remorse.
Because when you're investing in photography gear, you're not just investing in one camera, one lens, you're investing in a whole system. When you choose the camera you're going for, then that means you're choosing what lenses you're going to stick with as well. And if you get the wrong ones, it can end up being very, very expensive to reshuffle everything. So getting it right is particularly important when it comes to those pieces of gear. So this is what I love about autumn, is that what is a very boring scene normally can be instantly transformed just because of the addition of colour. So you can see we've got this gate that has water flowing through it. That's something interesting. But then behind that gate is three very characterful trees full of colour. It's a very simple scene, but that's very much my style these days. I try and keep it just as simple as possible, and generally that works out for the best. And when it comes to things that really do improve what you produce, when it comes to sharing my photography via video, then this week's sponsor has been absolutely invaluable.
Now, if you've watched any of my videos in the past year, then you will have heard music and sound effects from Epidemic Sound, because I absolutely love that service for sharing my photography. Anybody that watches my channel knows that music is a huge part of my videos. I really couldn't make my videos without it. In fact, very often, the music is like the backbone of my video. I'll hear a track that I really like and I think, yeah, what could I build around that? And that's absolutely what I do, because I love music anyway, so building videos around it just sort of comes naturally to me. But the great thing about Epidemic Sound is they work with artists from all over the world to bring a huge variety of music that you can use whatever style of video that you want to make. And at the moment, they're making a very special offer that you can take advantage of straight away. If you use the link that's down in the description, they're giving you 2 months absolutely free. And what's even better is, if you use any music within those 2 months in your videos, then you won't get a copyright strike for the rest of the life of that video that you've produced during those 2 months. It really is a win-win situation. And by clicking that link in the description, you're directly helping me as a channel and helping me to carry on producing these videos that I love making. Genuinely, thank you for doing so. And thank you to Epidemic Sound for providing such great music for me to carry on using.
So instantly, this road caught my eye as a really simple composition, because I always talk about looking for characters within your woodland photography. And it doesn't always have to be a tree that is a character. In this case, it's this really interesting, sort of perfect S-bend road that turns up here. Now, unfortunately, the best composition is right here amongst all these thorns. So although my face doesn't show it, I'm in quite a bit of pain at the moment. So anyway, there is one thing that I absolutely recommend everyone buys, especially for woodland photography, and that is a polarizing filter. Let me show you the reason for that. If you have a look at this road here, the effect that the polarizer has, as I twist the polarizer, notice how the road changes, darkens that road, and adds a lot of depth of color to the trees and leaves also. And that's really important, because what polarizers do is they cut out any reflections, which leaves you with a much more saturated photo, which is much nicer to edit when you get it back in Lightroom later. But when it comes to choosing the right gear, there's one question that we can ask that will help you to get the perfect gear for you, no matter what your budget is. I just found this very simple, very beautiful composition in just before we lose the light, which is the problem with this time of year. You lose it so quickly. I can't believe it's only 3:30 and already I'm thinking I'm going to have to turn back because it's going to go dark. But anyway, let me talk you through this last composition because it's a little beauty, I think. Now, I've not done much fungal photography before. That was fun to say, fungal photography. The reason it's beautiful is because it's so simple. There's a group of 5 mushrooms just growing up this tree, with the one at the top they're all leading to being ever so slightly lighter and a different colour to the others. Now, I think I'm going to have to answer that last point back in my office because it's going very dark and I need to get back to the car before I get lost. So hopefully I'll see you there.
Fungal photography. Fungal photography. I'm sure there's some sort of tongue twister you can make out of that, but it's not coming to my head right now. Anyway, if you really want to know what gear to buy and if you should get a piece of gear, then there's a very simple question that you can ask yourself. Within your budget of what you can afford, will this make me a better photographer? It really is that simple because, as you know, if you've been looking at photography gear, there is an almost unlimited choice of what you could buy, and it's very difficult to know what to get. But if you just boil it down to what will actually make you a better photographer, it can often make it difficult to make a bad choice in that situation. If you're really struggling to choose what camera to get, then honestly, my recommendation would be to just try them out in a store, because all the major manufacturers now have gotten so good at making cameras, it's actually difficult to buy a bad camera if you buy a modern one, just because they're all so good. What's more important these days is, do you enjoy using that camera? And the only way you're going to find that out is by going and trying them out. So if there's somewhere you can go to try and see what it feels like to use, or take some pictures with it, then I absolutely recommend you do that, because the one that feels right to you will probably be the one that you'll stick with for a long, long time. Personally, I absolutely love the ergonomics and the feel of the Lumix camera that I'm filming on now. I also really like how they look. Personally, I think they're the best looking cameras out there with the little red design. But I know there's lots of people that wouldn't like that. The only person that will know if a camera is right for you is you yourself. And then beyond that, if you're choosing what lenses to get or what accessories to buy, if you just ask that question, will it make me a better photographer, and it's within your budget, then yes, I absolutely recommend that you buy whatever that thing is, because that is the ultimate goal of any piece of gear that we're looking at as photographers. Now, it's okay to buy things just because you want them as well. There's nothing wrong with that. If you can afford something and you like the look of it, then that's absolutely fine. I know I've got tons of stuff that I bought just because I like it. It doesn't necessarily make me a better photographer. And sometimes when I take some photos, I think, man, I could really do with some help at being a better photographer. By the way, for anyone new to my channel, don't judge me by today's photos. I'm not so happy with some of them. As long-term viewers will know, I like to share my bad work as well as my good. I felt there was more misses than hits in today's video. But if you do want to judge me, then check out my website, joshuapegg.com, where my portfolio is. You're absolutely free to judge my work there. Not necessarily on every video, though. Ultimately, though, what I want you to take away from this video is that you don't need expensive gear and you don't need somebody else's gear. You need the right gear for you. That's what will make you a good photographer. If you want to see the truth about what it takes to be a good photographer, then I talk about that in this video here, and I think you'll probably agree with me. I'll see you next time.